I'm Carson.
I'm Jordan.
Welcome to Take Two, and today we're going to be discussing Disney and Pixar's new film, Finding Dory.
I remembered something. That's not possible. Is it? Okay, is it like a picture in your head? And then you think I've seen this before? I just used the word before, which means I'm remembering something. What was I talking about?
So Finding Dory takes place 1 year after the original Finding Nemo, which came out in 2003, directed by Andrew Stanton. This time, Andrew Stanton takes the director's chair again to take us on another venture with some characters that we've already grown to love in the past, with the nostalgia involved. You know this movie. I know you know this movie. Everyone knows this movie. So how does this hold up? So for me, Pixar's a big deal. Sure. I love Pixar. Easily my favorite company that exists today. A lot of people love Apple. A lot of people love Microsoft. A lot of people love Google. Pixar's my thing, man.
Sure.
I mean, I adore Pixar in a lot of ways because it's not a normal movie studio. And maybe this is just the cloak of their promotional materials. Maybe it's how they reflect themselves. I love Pixar. It's a big deal to me. Almost every single one of their movies is something I at least like, if not love. Pixar's a big deal to me. And Finding Nemo specifically, I'm not huge on that movie, believe it or not. I like it. I actually would say I love it, but I don't rewatch it all the time.
But we did just rewatch it the other day.
We did, just to sort of, refresh ourselves. But Finding Nemo for me growing up was a movie that in elementary school the teachers put it on when no one wanted to do anything. So I've seen the movie so many times. But it still holds up, I think.
I agree.
So venturing into this, there's a lot of pushback that someone with a lot of nostalgia for this movie might have.
Sure. I can see where a lot of things people could be complaining after just rewatching Finding Nemo the other day.
Sure.
It is pretty much a similar story, very similar.
Yeah.
A few minor changes here and there. But the basic premise is, the same.
Yeah. And the heart of this movie, as with the last one, as with most Pixar movies, are the characters. Last time Pixar tried to take a sidekick and make them the star of a movie, we got Cars 2.
Yeah.
Which is, in my opinion, and many others, the worst Pixar movie ever made to date.
I would agree. 100%.
No heart in that movie. And
no,
I don't
not
like,
at all.
I don't like Larry the Cable Guy anyway.
Yeah, it's played strictly for laughs.
Yeah, exactly. So when you go into this movie, you want to see the characters that you grew up loving.
Sure.
You do.
Absolutely.
Nobody changes.
They bring them back in the most fantastic way I think they possibly could have.
I think a good choice was that they only made it a year later.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
This ain't a Toy Story 3.
Sure, they absolutely could have made Nemo older or could have changed things, around a little bit, but keeping it within that year time frame I think is really nice. It keeps the story centralized.
I had some pushback. I was worried.
I was too. I think a lot of people were.
Yeah. The movie's great.
Oh, yeah.
It's fantastic.
It's fantastic.
It's really, really, really good.
All right, so talking about the good, the movie is incredibly beautiful.
Yes.
Absolutely beautiful. I would argue one of the most beautiful Pixar films. 100%.
Easily. And I know that that's beating a dead horse with Pixar.
Sure.
Pixar is the standard for 3D animation. They have been probably
it's a hard thing to live up to.
The entire time they've existed, I think. Even their bad movies look great.
Sure.
Good Dinosaur was but it was beautiful.
Absolutely.
The water simulation is unreal.
See, I hate calling this like a triumph because it is in CGI, because you look at how
every Pixar movie is a triumph in CGI.
You look how beautiful the water is. And I mean, we were talking about this the other day. Water is like one of the first things that CGI got right.
They got it down.
But there are some scenes in this movie where it is it's almost unbelievable that it was made in a computer. It's almost like they added the characters from the Nemo universe later after shooting on real water.
So there are some shots in this movie in the deep focus, the very deep background, that are almost completely out of focus, that look like real footage.
Oh yeah,
live action footage. There's a highway in one shot. Looks like they just went out and shot it. Oh yeah. It's unreal, and the character animation. Everybody has expressive eyes and faces. You had a point about character design in this.
Sure, yeah. When you look at the blue tang specifically, Dory's father, he's supposed to be a little bit older than more of the other fish that we've seen, But they have this ingenious way of, like, just very subtle thing. It's very Pixar. Blue Tang have this, like, black stripe on their back, and his looked like a receding hairline, which was fantastic. And just very subtle.
Yeah, and the forehead was a bit wider, more pronounced. A little bit, Beautiful, beautiful movie, and I think we've made our point there.
Absolutely.
So, moving on to the next big point, and the big point that Pixar always drives home when they make these movies is the story.
Sure.
Dory is a character that a lot of people love, and in this movie, your adoration of this character is tested.
Sure.
Big time.
I was worried going into this when you make a movie strictly about Dory, because she's a character that's like a one-trick pony. She forgets things, and that can be a little difficult to write around, but I think they did a fantastic job. She does not get old in this movie, and I thought she would. I really thought she would.
Right.
Because, like I said, she has this one gimmick. I thought they'd ham it up, but they don't.
They do something interesting here where they take that, gimmick. I don't want to say gimmick, but gimmick, because it's kind of harsh.
Sure.
Of forgetting things, and they give it a reason to exist.
Absolutely.
In Finding
this
Nemo,
story, I think more than the last one.
Yeah, in Finding Nemo, it was like a running gag.
Sure.
It has weight here, and it works, and it makes sense. And it puts the character on an arc that if you watched, Finding Nemo a couple years ago, even before they announced this sequel, if you told me that Dory would have a ridiculous amount of weight and story to her, and that she had an arc to travel through later on, I wouldn't believe you.
Sure.
This pulled it off.
Absolutely.
Super
100%,
well.
100%.
And it works. And that's going to be my catchphrase with these. I know it works. Something that I wouldn't expect to. It fits together. It's perfect in a lot of ways. This movie has what I believe to be one of Pixar's, if not Pixar's, most impressive character to date.
I would absolutely agree with that.
It's not a spoiler, but Hank the Octopus is astounding to watch in this.
I would love to know how long... There's a small little featurette about it online, which you all should check out. It's very fascinating. But I would love to know just the man-hours behind moving those tentacles around. Because that's incredible.
Even that, he has a camouflage, thing.
The texture.
Being able to texture that and line it up.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I can't imagine how much
painstaking work, I'm sure.
Whoever was in charge of putting Hank together, rigging that character, making him work, or not just person, group of people, team, I'm sure, oh my gosh, it's great. And it looks amazing.
It really does.
Probably the most impressive character in the film, I think, in terms of technical aspects.
But I think Pixar knew that going in. They 100% knew that because they give him a lot of the spotlight, and he has a reason to exist.
Most everybody's back with some new additions that we'll touch on, but Ellen DeGeneres had to carry this movie. She did great. Just as good as last time.
She
memorable lines
fantastic
here.
Comedic timing. Yeah. Always has.
Mm-hmm. And she improved, I'm sure, like she did last time.
Absolutely.
Animators probably like, we didn't imagine we'd have to animate that line. But Albert Brooks sounds older than Finding Nemo.
Definitely does. Quite a bit. It's been 13 years.
Yeah, his character has his shtick now that works super, super well.
It does.
Of that uptight dad. Still plays it out, but it still works. The addition of Ed O'Neill as Hank. Super good.
Fantastic.
I love Ed O'Neill.
Wonderful little voice that just, it fits that octopus character for sure.
And second most notable for me was Idris Elba's, and I don't remember the side character.
Sea Lion?
The Sea Lions.
Yeah.
Were great.
One thing that I would really like to touch on is the relationship between Marlin and Dory. We talked about this the other day. I am so glad that in the first one that they chose to keep Marlin and Dory's relationship strictly friendship.
Platonic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But in this movie, they further that a little bit and almost make him like a father figure to her.
Sure.
And he feels just as protective over her as he does over Nemo.
Right.
Which is this wonderful little dynamic that you wouldn't expect, from any other studio but Pixar, because they're willing to push that rather than having to shove a romance down your throat.
Speaking of negatives about the film, maybe I'll have to sit on it.
Yeah, I would too.
I walked out of this loving it.
A lot of fun. That's the thing, right? Is that, you had said this earlier, there's not a whole lot of heart compared to the first one. There was a lot more I find there. You felt a little more invested as far as the relationship between Nemo and Marlin. But There is quite a bit of heart in this, just not as much maybe as I would have liked. I thought perhaps I was going to cry. I usually do in Pixar movies, but I didn't in this one.
Right.
Which is fine, and that's not even a negative. That's just...
It still had that emotional impact.
Absolutely.
So, and I wasn't going to dock it for that anyway, because I wasn't... Finding Nemo's a very, very emotional film. It's going to be hard to top that or even equal it out, you know. Something for me, I don't think the score by Thomas Newman was as rich as the last film. Still, it was fine. So overall, again, we just saw it. We haven't really processed it and digested this film yet, but I don't imagine that my opinions will change that much in the future. For me, I'm going to give this a solid 9.
Really, that's exactly where I was going to put it myself. I was teetering on an 8.5 and a 9, but I would definitely give it a 9.
Sure.
If not pushing that extra 0.5 just for the technical bump.
They did it again, guys. And while we're not in that Pixar golden age anymore, unfortunately, they're not rolling out hits every year anymore.
No, but they have kind of kick-started back into it.
I think Cars 2 was so bad that...
It was a new low for them, and they had to kick that back up.
It was a shock, and everybody was like, oh, maybe they're not this perfect golden place.
Well, it's hard to stand out nowadays when you have, 8 or 9 other animation
Warner,
studios.
You got DreamWorks, you got Sony. They're everywhere. But I think Pixar has always stayed at the top.
I agree.
Regardless of that downturn, hopefully what we see in the future is great. So 9 for me and 9 for me. Aggregate score 9. It's a good movie, guys.
Go see it.
So before we close, I want to touch on 2 things. Every Pixar movie has a short film at the beginning. Piper was this one. It was about this little, I don't know what bird it was.
Just like a little seabird.
Little seabird. Might be in my top 3 favorite.
It was an incredible little short film, and it shows how much can be done with no dialogue and just expressive animation.
Yeah, perfect animation.
Oh,
beautiful.
Oh my gosh,
gorgeous
all
animation.
this shallow
really,
focus.
really deep focus and stuff like that. It was great.
God.
Another thing I want to really touch on, there's an in-credit scene for Finding Dory that you need to stay to watch because it is fantastic.
Also, it's funny too.
It's hilarious.
Great thing.
Yeah.
Great thing worth staying after. I was honestly surprised. We both
Not many
were.
people stayed.
How many people
we had a
did
full
not
theater
stay?
and maybe 10.
Maybe
full theater.
yeah.
It went from at least 100 to 10. More than that. But stay for it. It's worth it. Trust us. So if you enjoyed this review, be sure to let us know. We will be rolling more of these out in the future. We're not looking for a huge following or anything. It's fun, A
lot of fun.
But if you are watching, let us know what you think. Like, comment, subscribe if you do so choose and feel that's appropriate. We'd like to grow this if we can.
Sure.
If not, fine. Fine with me.
Me too.
Yeah. So.
Me too.
We'll see you next time.